Okay. How many of you remember the original version of the speech, the archery speech with the compound bow? Decent amount. Okay. This is the part 2 of the things I didn't get to go over in that speech. That includes history, safety, which I won't spend too much time on, and I decided that's not going to be enough. So I'm going to go over recurve bows as well, a little bit about them, add some history about the recurve bow, different parts of it. And so we're going to jump right in. First, we're going to go over safety. Or, no, I'm sorry. We're going to go over history first. Now, it's uncertain among scientists and historians when the bow was originally created. Many believe that its first appearance was in South Africa around 70,000 years ago. That's the most I can find on it. After that, they made very little progress to none. It remained a simple wood and a string, even more simple than this. Eventually, they started making small progressions. They started making little cutouts in the riser, which actually, I'm going to face that part towards you guys. They started making cutouts in the riser for arrows. The purpose behind this is so that they fly straighter and more direct where you are aiming. The first known big advancement in archery was the ancient Egyptians, Romans, and the Greeks, when they decided, let's make this a little bit more than a piece of wood and a string. They added horn, glue, and sinew. That was about it. They just really increased the integrity of the bow itself. Later came the English the longbow. This helped the British in several victories in the 100 Years' War. After this, it was back to slow progressions, very little, maybe a little bit more, making the arrows straighter. That was about it. Until one day, in 1966, a man named Hollis Wilbur Allen created the first compound bow. Do you guys remember what a compound bow is from my last speech? It's the new ones, they have fancy cams. After that, we've gone back to simple, gradual improvements, mostly with tuning and speed of the bow. I'm going to go over just a little bit of safety real quick. Obviously, we don't name people, right? Not very smart. Now, unless you're like me and you're working in an archery shop and you've been taught how to do this safely, I would never pull this bow back without an arrow. Can anyone tell me why? Raise your hand.
Dry firing is bad.
That's correct. Why is it bad?
It damages the bow.
That's correct. On a compound bow, usually you'll bend the cams, damage the string. Cheap-ish fixes. On a recurve bow, especially one like this that is out of production, that riser would snap in half. Now, similar to a compound bow, we have string. The riser is the main center part that I hold on to, and then we have the limbs that produce the power. And I'll go over that a little bit more, a little bit in detail what's on the string. That riser would snap in half. Now, if that is still in production, depending on the bow, depending on if I'm the original owner and it's under warranty, $300. For a bow out of production with sentimental value, it's gone. Irreplaceable. Take care of the bows and arrows. When I am storing this bow, I store it just like this, assuming I shoot it daily. One way I would never store this bow is standing like this, leaning on something. This is a little bit less obvious. Can anyone tell me why I would never store it like that? No?
Easy to knock over.
That, but even if I don't knock it over, I can damage it. This would damage it by warping the limbs. Warping the limbs decreases power, accuracy, overall performance of the bow. And if they warp too much, it could lead, again, to something similar to a dry fire and cause it to snap in half in my hand, maybe a couple shards of wood in my hand. Other than that, there's not too much for the safety. Inspect your bow every other shooting session. Inspect your arrows, make sure they're not cracked. Which, carbon arrows, I'm gonna look over it. Okay, there's no crack. Okay, it didn't snap in my hand. That means that arrow is safe to shoot. If it does snap in your hand, it was damaged. It won't hurt you unless you shoot it and it snaps in your bow. Then you'll have a million pieces of carbon in your hand that you'll have to go to the ER and then have to pluck out of your hand. I've had a couple guys come to our shop say that they did that. And it was a very fun experience, especially looking at it. Now, traditional bows, like I said, they have the riser, the limbs. I talked to a couple of you about this a second ago, so I don't want to answer for any of you. Can anyone tell me what these are called? No, those are cat whiskers. Those, what they do, in summary, take light vibration and make the bow quieter. This little fella here, it's a little brass knocking point. What that does is I put my arrow underneath that every single time when I shoot, and that'll help me stay consistent. Other than that, there's not too much to how this works. I could go over a little bit more. I see you. I could go over a little bit more, but I won't. I will skip to the end a little bit. The bow can be a very symbolic thing in history, in the Bible. To the Native Americans, it represented protection and the prowess of hunting. In the Bible, the bow symbolizes strength, power, the readiness to act, and divine judgment. For Psalm 7:12 through 13 says, if a person does not repent, God sharpens his sword and prepares to shoot his bow. He prepares deadly weapons against him. He gets ready to shoot flaming arrows.